Hello there, welcome to my channel. I'm Greg, and this is my channel Midnight Oil Software, where I talk about digital art and game development in Unity. In this stream, I'm going to be talking about my Ninja Eggs game, specifically the Moon Patrol minigame that I'm writing as an add-on to it. In previous streams, I've added the spawning of terrain and craters and various hazards, and in the very last stream, the spawning of pterodactyls and dropping of bombs on the player. One thing I've noticed, though, is that the game is extremely difficult because I'm not really doing anything to prevent craters from spawning too close to each other to make them impossible to jump over. There's also no way to move the player's buggy forward and backwards. The buggy is just moving. Actually, it stays in a fixed position with a fixed camera, and then the terrain scrolls underneath of it like it's on a treadmill. And with the pterodactyls flying back and forth over the player, if they happen to drop a bomb right on top of the player, there's no way to avoid it. So in this stream, I've kind of rearranged my roadmap a little bit. I had planned on adding more hazards, some landmines, and adding some scorched earth visuals for when bombs hit terrain but don't create craters. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically put in the logic to create craters from being spawned too close together. And if I have time, I might look into adding the forward and backward controls for the buggy. So let me first of all switch over to my game, and I will demonstrate specifically what I just realized that you couldn't see my screen that whole time I was talking. But this is what I'm talking about. I'm going to add logic for not creating the craters too close together. I'm going to add later the forward and back controls for the buggy if I have time. And then in subsequent streams, I'll work on adding more hazards in the scorched earth. I think I'm also going to do some tweaks so that certain hazards and enemies don't appear until later in the game after you've beaten certain milestones. I think that would make more sense. It would make it a little bit so it would kind of gradually get more difficult too. Okay, so I'm going to just play the game so you can kind of see what I was talking about. So there's one crater, there was a turret on the other side. Okay, so actually I didn't even clear that crater, but that doesn't really adequately demonstrate the problem that I was talking about. So just play this a little bit. So far these have been pretty easy. I always like to shoot before I jump, just in case there's something right on the other side of the crater that I can't avoid. Oh, there's a pterodactyl. Ooh, and I made it. There were back-to-back craters, and I was still able to make that jump. So I'm not doing a very good job of showing you how it can be impossible. He does not have a bomb. That was interesting. Might have a bug there. So far, I'm not really being challenged. Well, there we go. Of course, I'm not sure that any tweaking would have prevented that from happening, but I still want to go ahead and implement this logic so that craters can't be spawned too close to each other. And so the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to have the terrain manager maintain a collection of craters. So the prefab that I'm using in the terrain for the craters here, it's going to have a sprite renderer associated with it. And if I grab that sprite renderer, I should be able to get the bounds of that, its width and height. And basically what I want to do is I want to use its width to determine its width along with a minimum distance between craters to determine whether any particular position is valid for a new crater to be added. And that'll be true whether I'm spawning new craters just in general, or when a bomb hits normal terrain, whether it creates a crater there or not. So let me go into my terrain manager script. And right now, all I'm doing to determine if I can spawn a crater is I've got this crater chance, which is a percentage. We go back into Unity and we go look at my terrain manager here. I have this currently set in the inspector to 15%. And when I spawn a crater, so in spawn new terrain, I call a method to say get terrain type to spawn. And in that method, if it's a crater, I set the crater chance to 0. If it's not a crater, then I add 5 to whatever the current crater chance is. And I take the minimum of the max crater chance or whatever this new value is, which can never exceed whatever it was I set in the inspector. So when I create a crater, the very next terrain will not be able to be, well, there's only a 5% chance for the next crater. Well, the very next one can't be a crater because crater chance will be 0. But then we're going to add 5. And so the next time we come in, it could be a 5% chance and a 10% chance and then so forth until we reach the max crater chance. I'm going to throw all of this out. And what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to add a method. I'm going to make it a bool, valid crater position. And it will take a vector. Actually, all I need is an X. Oops. Yeah, all I need in there is an X. And so this is going to look at that X position, and then I'm going to roll through my collection of craters, which I don't have yet. We need to add that. And I'm going to compare it to the minimum crater distance. So I should probably have a serializable field for that. And for now, I really have no idea what that should be. I'm going to say something like 10. All right. So I already get a sprite renderer for the last terrain spawned. And so I can use that to save the width. So I already had this last terrain sprite renderer.balance.size.x. And actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a crater width variable. And in my awake, I'm going to say crater prefab get component sprite renderer bounds.size.x. Oh. Crater width equals. I'm just going to assume that I can get that. I like the check for null. So if you're not familiar with this, this is a null interpolator. It basically is only going to try and dereference this if this is not null. But then that means that this is expecting a reference type. It wants a float question mark instead of just a float. But I think I'm just going to keep this. Well, I could do that. Actually, I could be a little bit smarter than that. If I let this run, and I go look at a crater when one appears, so it looks like it's it's 2.56. So it looks like that's the width, 2.56. So what I could do, if for some reason I wasn't able to get the sprite renderer and do that, and this should never happen, honestly, because the crater prefab should definitely be assigned, and it should definitely have a sprite renderer. Okay, so the next thing I need is a collection of craters. What am I doing? Float. I need a list of game objects, craters. Actually, I'm going to say active craters. Can I do that there? So spawn new terrain. It's called from scrolling terrain. I want to tell it which object I'm despawning here, so I can remove it from our collection. Okay. All right, this will make sure that when terrain gets despawned, when it moves off the screen, that if it's a crater, I remove it from our collection of active craters. So now when I spawn a crater, when I want to do it here. Actually, I probably want to do it in here. geo. So right now, I'm always returning true, saying this is a valid crater position. I'm not even calling that yet, actually. So this is just going to spawn a crater if my crater chance is specified in the inspector is, if the random dice roll is less than or equal to that. So all I want to do is I want to look in the inspector and make sure that my active craters contains all the active craters, and that when craters despawn that they get removed from that collection. So let me go back into Unity and click play. Oops, obviously I've got a bug. Oh, I never instantiated active craters. By the way, I got this mug from Jason Wyman. He's got one of the best YouTube channels for Unity game development. So I got me some merch off of his site. So there's 2 active craters. If I go to my terrain manager, I've got 2 active craters in there. They're still active. What did I do here? Okay, so there should be 1 active and 1 inactive. And yes, that is working cool. So to show you what I'm looking at here, over here under my don't destroy unload, you can see there is an active crater and an inactive crater. And over here in my debug inspector, you can see that my active craters collection only contains 1. So just to point out again what I was looking at here and here. Okay, so that all worked. So now how can we take advantage of that collection to only create a crater if it is valid? So what I will do is I will say for each game object crater in active craters, if crater.transform.position.x minus x, I'm going to take the absolute value of that. If that is less than or equal to the minimum crater distance, don't need no if. We don't need no stinking if. I'm just going to return that. Actually, what I want to do, I do need an if, because there's multiple of these. If this is greater than, no. Yeah, what am I thinking? I need to go through all of them and find out the closest one. And if any of them if any of them is less than the minimum crater distance, then I want to return false. Yeah, that's what I want to do. And that'll break me out of the loop. Otherwise, I will return true. I'll return tur. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's valid crater position. Now, where do I want to use that? If my random die roll is less than or equal to crater chance, and I want to say is valid crater position. Now this needs to know where I'm trying to spawn this at. I need to pass in my spawn position.x. Okay, so that should be checking. And what is my minimum? So if I actually want this to be in terms of how many spaces need to be between craters. So I'm going to say 3. I'm going to call this minimum space between craters. Minimum units. I'll get it just right. Terrain spaces between, that's a long variable, but it's very descriptive. Oops. All right. So I will make a property. So I'm going to multiply our crater width times the minimum number of spaces between craters, and that will give me my minimum crater space. So I need to change my equation to be that. I think that all looks okay. So if it's not a crater, it's going to be normal terrain. And I want to do the same thing and create crater. Ah, it looks like I'm already handling that there. Spawn terrain. Am I? No, I'm telling it to spawn a crater. So, if is valid crater position. There. So now if a bomb drops right next to a crater, it should not create a crater. All right, we are going to see if this works. Okay, let's try this again. So far, the craters are far apart. And it's actually spawning craters, so something is working there. Drop a bomb. Yes, it did not create a crater. Holy smoke, it works. All right. I'm very, very happy with that. Okay, so going back to my to-do, this works. So limit certain, I don't want to do that tonight. I think I should work on adding the forward and backward controls to the buggy. So I need to create a scroll speed controller. I'm actually going to call it a ScrollSpeedManager. And I'm going to create a script. I'm going to call it ScrollSpeedManager. And I'm actually going to make this a base class that I'm going to override it in the Egg Patrol game, and because I might want to have different things affect the scroll speed in different mini games, and I want to use this in multiple mini games. At any rate, let me open this up in Visual Studio. Not sure why I did that. And refactor this to the minigames namespace. All right, so I'm going to have a base scroll speed. And who knows, I could default to anything. And then I want to have a public float scroll speed, public abstract, not abstract, virtual float. And I want to have a virtual method. Let's see, I'm going to have it adjust scroll speed by amount Is there anything else I want to do in here? I think that's probably good for now. I want to go to the Egg Patrol Manager. Or maybe it's a Terrain Manager. Ah, yes. Terrain Manager. Oh, yeah, the scroll speed is currently -5. Let me just double check all that. Scrolling terrain. I'm gonna have to close that. Close that. Yeah, -5. Okay, so let me go back into my scroll speed manager. Set this default to be -5. And everywhere I am using, where I'm currently using a float for my scroll speed, like here, I want to replace that with a reference to the scroll speed manager. And I can either add it as a serialized field, or I could have it go find the object in the scene. And I think I want to add it as a serialized field. So in here, where I have scroll speed, I'm going to replace this with scroll speed manager. And of course, that's going to break this. So scroll speed manager dot scroll speed. And I think actually, I don't even know that it makes sense for the terrain manager to pass in scroll speed, because it's not the terrain manager that's actually doing the scrolling, it's the scrolling terrain. So what I want to do is that. Get rid of that. Don't need that. Okay. Yeah, this way, as the scroll speed increases or decreases, things should scroll by faster or slower. Everything, every object should all reference the same scroll speed manager and scroll appropriately. So one thing I want to do to test this is I want to turn off craters, turn off my enemy spawner. I just want to be able to focus on, and I want to turn off hazards. I just want to focus on speeding things up and slowing things down. I need to drag in my ScrollSpeedManager, and actually, let me go into my prefabs, minigames. I'm going to create that. I'm going to delete that. Well, I think I can just use that base class. I'm not doing anything special in Ninja Eggs in the Egg Patrol version. I think in the future, like when the buggy, I don't know, I might be able to just use that base class. I'm just going to use it. So I'll go into my terrain manager and I will drag this in. I think. I did not add my script. Scripts. Minigames. ScrollSpeedManager. There we go. Now, let me override my prefab. Drag that. Oh, come on. Drag that onto there. There we go. All right, let's see what happens here. So I am scrolling at -5. I'm not exposing my scroll speed adjustment. It won't let me edit it in here. I'm going to temporarily make that public. Actually, I will just expose it in the inspector. That does not seem to be having any effect. What if I did this? Okay, well that's working. Ah! Oh yeah, it's flying now. So I can speed up, I can slow down, speed up, slow down, speed up. So I think you can see from this how if I add the forward and back controls for the buggy, just by virtue of pressing forward, I speed up. That will make things scroll by faster. And then if I move backwards and slow down, that makes things scroll by slower. So it gives me the illusion of moving faster and slower. But that's not the only thing I want to do for the buggy movement. I think I mentioned in a previous video, I want to have some maximum forward position. I want to have a neutral position. So this would be the buggy's neutral position. And I might even start the game by having him move in to his neutral position during the countdown or something. So he comes into the scene while it's counting down, and then the game starts and it starts scrolling. And it's scrolling at the normal scroll speed. And then if you move, press the forward button, I'll move him forward to some point, which is the furthest forward position he can go to. And if I'm there and still moving forward, I speed up the scroll speed. So that this moving forward while at the normal scroll speed, followed by increasing the scroll speed, should give a nice illusion of him going faster. And then if I stop moving forward, I'll drift back to here and then set it back to the normal scroll speed. And if I'm moving backwards, drift back to here and then slow down the scroll speed. If I stop moving backwards, I'll drift back to here and resume the normal scroll speed. So I think that's what I have in mind. I haven't tried this, but it seems to me like that should work. And this will allow me to move forward and backwards to avoid the bombs from the pterodactyls. So let me just see what that looks like with craters. Actually, you know what? I want to use some buttons to do the speed up and slow down, so I don't have to come over here and mess with this with the mouse. So I'm going to go into my Ninja Egg buggy. Where's your script, buddy? There we go. You know what? He needs a reference. I really probably should get the scroll speed controller from the game manager, just to minimize all my dependencies. I think I'm going to do that. I know I'm bouncing around, but it just seems like that would be cleaner, because I don't have nearly as many serialized fields in here. And I know I mentioned in the past of wanting to use a singleton instantiation pattern for this guy. Basically, I would create a public static egg patrol manager instance variable, and in awake, why are you not letting me do that? Oh, I know why. I know exactly why. I already implement awake. Well, I thought I did. But I don't, apparently. Okay, that's just weird. Void awake. All right. I might be overcomplicating this, because he's going to have to, that means that my terrain manager, which is not specific to Egg Patrol, would have to know about the Egg Patrol manager. Yeah, I'm going to undo that. I'll still leave this here, that doesn't matter. But for now, I don't think he needs that reference. I'll go into my Ninja Egg buggy, I'll add a serialized field, ScrollSpeedManager. I'll go back into Unity and I will assign that. Go back into my code. And in update, right now I have a button for mouse button down for jump, mouse button down for fire. So I think I want to have bool moving forward, bool moving backwards. So if input dot get key down, let's see, that's not what I want. I think I want get key. Yes, that's what I want. Key code. So for forward, we'll do WASD. So we'll do D for forward, or what am I doing? Input dot get key, key code dot right arrow. So D or right arrow will be forward. And actually what I'm going to do, moving forward equals. Moving backwards. I guess you could theoretically be moving forward and backwards, but I'm going to say that moving backwards will be not moving forward, and A or left arrow. All right. So then, in fixed update, is that what I want to do? I really should have done this in fixed update. Okay. If right now all I'm going to do I don't need to do this because I'm going to handle this with an else in here. So right now, all I'm going to do is the speeding up and slowing down part. So speed manager, adjust scroll speed by I don't really know what this should be. Well, maybe I'll do this. Okay, so nah. So what I'm doing here is I want to calculate how much I want to adjust the speed by. So the adjustment will equal speed adjustment factor times time dot fixed delta time. Times -1. Speed adjustment times -1 times time dot fixed delta time. And then if ScrollSpeedManager dot ScrollSpeed plus adjustment is less than max scroll speed, which I think should be -7. Then adjustment equals manager max scroll speed minus the scroll speed. And it'll be 0 if they're already the same. So I will say adjust ScrollSpeedManager dot adjust scroll speed by adjustment. And let me go figure out why this. Because I'm just returning that. So this should be that plus scroll speed adjustment. And if it's negative, it will go more negative. All right. All that just to see if I can speed up. And it's not working. Ooh. That actually went up. Well, I thought it did. So it went up once. Yeah, because it went to the maximum. So let me make my maximum scroll speed -10. So my adjustment should be -5. That actually worked. And I think it might have been too gradual an increase. I want to watch this in the debugger. So I'm going to hold down the... Yeah, that's very gradual. I think I want it to be a little bit faster than that. So... yeah, let's do the opposite now. Okay, so if moving backwards, else if how do I know when I get back to the normal scroll speed? I need to expose the adjustment. So I think instead of doing this, well, this can be a private getter, private setter, I mean, and only be set through this. I just need to know if we have an adjustment applied. So if ScrollSpeedManager adjustment is not equal to 0, and that should have it. If I stop going forward, it should come back down to the normal speed. Oh, it came down like almost immediately. Oh, duh. I need to do it by fixed delta time. Okay. And we'll come back and we will do the backwards in a minute. Okay. Oh, yeah. Of course, I wasn't paying attention. I ran into a crater. And actually, I should be using the adjustment factor. Boy, that's a nasty looking thing. Don't write clever code. Okay. If that looked pretty good. Ooh, why does the scroll speed adjustment keep flickering? Why? And that's like an exponent. Let me see if that's changing on its own. It's got to have something to do. It must be happening in here. Well, I'm not moving forward. I know that. It's got to have to do with this. Because there's not going to be precision. That's about as close as you can get to comparing to 0, I think. I'm going to get rid of that breakpoint for a moment, because I want to apply some speed change. interesting. That is definitely interesting. Okay, time for a breakpoint. Ah. Okay, so it's current adjustment. So this is happening every fixed frame. Oops. Did I not hit that breakpoint? Let's try that again. Past these craters. What in the world? I did not hit my breakpoint. Oh, I didn't save it either. Did I make a change in this editor? So I have a breakpoint here. Maybe my code changes were not applied because I hadn't saved the file. Nope. And I'm not hitting this breakpoint. Now I had a problem like this before. Just going to close Visual Studio, or actually I'm going to stop debugging, go back into here and let it rebuild the script. Nope, it's still going down to an exponential thing. So there's got to be something wrong in my algorithm here. And I don't know why I'm not hitting this breakpoint. Weird. Okay, let me just close Visual Studio. Open this back up. thought I was telling it to rebuild, but somehow I made all my screens go black. All right, let me just see what happens if I run it again. Still doing that. And I did not hit my breakpoint. Let me see what happens if I move backwards. That is very, very strange. Okay, so I want my adjustment to be my speed adjustment factor times time dot fixed delta time, and if the ScrollSpeedManager's at scroll speed plus that adjustment is greater than, I notice it's weird, it's because I'm using negative for max going forward and positive for min because we're going back. The way it scrolls, things are scrolling to the left. So that's kind of weird. Adjustment will equal min scroll speed plus, is that right? I think I'm going to want to say it's going to be the ScrollSpeedManager dot scroll speed minus min scroll speed. You know what? So, if we're moving forward, we want to subtract from the speed adjustment factor. If we're moving forwards, we want to add to the speed adjustment factor. And if we're just drifting, depending on which way we're drifting, we want to add to or subtract from the speed adjustment factor. It does not seem to be picking up my script changes. It should have wanted to rebuild when I came back. Because whenever you make a change in Visual Studio, when I switch back to Unity, it should want to rebuild my scripts, and I'm not seeing it do that. So I don't think it's using any of these changes I'm making. I'm going to do something drastic. I'm going to exit Unity, switch over to my Unity hub, and reopen this. So, you know any good jokes? Alrighty. Let's see what happens. still doing that. Let's go into that script. Oh, with the buggy. Let me close that. Go into the buggy. Put a breakpoint here. And that is really interesting. If I stop, then I'm never hitting my breakpoint. All right. I'm at a complete loss as to what could be happening here. It's like it's not hitting my breakpoints. Oh, I'm not debugging for one thing. Let me debug. Now let's see if I hit a breakpoint. Why am I... Oh. Well, that's definitely something I can do. I can say if adjustment is not equal to 0, okay, I hit it immediately. I need to put that inside some curly braces, maybe. Interesting. Visual Studio, you are amazing me. Hit the breakpoint. There's my adjustment. Stopped at 0. Let me pause that. Let me get rid of that breakpoint. Resume. Where in the world is it getting that from? It's got to be in here. Let's see what happens. never hit that particular breakpoint. Interesting. I'm sure I'm just doing a stupid math thing. A math error. So if I'm not moving forward, I'm not moving backwards. I need to adjust the speed by speed adjustment factor, which is, I think I set it to 2 in the inspector. Yes. So that means my current adjustment's less than 0. So I'm going to set this to the speed adjustment factor times time.fixed delta time. I think I might need to clamp it the same way I do for these. You know, I don't think I've tried moving backwards yet either. Let me see what it does when I do that. I run into the same type of problem. But I'm able to slow down, and it does gradually speed back up. All right. So I think that this clamping should be done out here. Well, let's see. I can probably extract this out. Make this a lot cleaner. That did not help, did it? So minimum scroll speed is -3. That's why it's not letting me go down any farther than that. So I've got some weird stuff going on when I'm coasting back to my normal speed. But I think I'm going to leave it here for tonight. That was just bizarre. So I'll figure that out. The other thing I want to do probably in the next stream what I'm probably going to want to do is add the forward and back positions. So right now I'm just speeding up and slowing down the scrolling, but what I actually want to do is move to a position and then start speeding up, and then drift back to my neutral position, and then start slowing back down. So, yeah. Anyway, I really appreciate you all tuning into my stream, and I hope that wasn't too confusing. And by the way, if you saw what I did that's wrong in those equations there, drop me a comment. I'd love to hear some constructive feedback there. And I would appreciate it if you click like and subscribe and click the notification icon if you want to be notified the next time I go live or the next time I upload a video. In the meantime, thanks so much again for watching, and I really hope that this is somewhat interesting and helpful. Please leave comments if you have any suggestions on what I can do to improve my content, or if there's anything in particular you'd like to see me cover. Again, or you have any questions, just drop a comment and I'll do my best to respond as soon as I can. And if you know anybody else that might be interested in this content, share a link to my channel and your social media or any other place that you think it might be of interest to someone. So thanks again for watching and have a great evening.